Take my hand, yeah, Lord.
Hey, so in the first episode of RuPaul Presents How We Got Over, which I hope you've seen by now, we're introduced to everybody and kind of given a setup of personalities and relationships and the relational dynamics of our main characters. There's two particular situations that I want you to focus on, and one is blatantly mentioned in passing, but it's mentioned, and that is that RuPaul's character Marquis has a son at a neighboring plantation. Now, this will come into focus a few more episodes down the road, but that juxtaposition, the juxtaposition of Marquis' queerness and the fact that he's a father, elicits, a wisecrack from Grady, how your little punk ass have a son? But that dynamic is really important. You'll see that Marquis was sired out against his will to create another enslaved person for somebody else as a commercial transaction. And the second situation is the presence of Miriam. Miriam has two kids, Leviticus and Deuteronomy, Levi and Deuter, and as you will come to find out later, she has no husband. Well, she has a husband, but her husband was sold off. And so on this installment of How We Got History, I want to talk about family separation under chattel slavery and how it was used as a deliberate tool of dehumanization. So when we think about slavery in the Antebellum South, usually the common picture in our minds is just of the forced labor, right? And the tyranny of their bodies and the lashing and all that. But one of the cruelest realities of American chattel slavery was not just the exploitation of a person's work and their body, it was the systematic destruction of families. Family separation was not an unfortunate side effect of slavery in America. It was one of its literal defining features. Under chattel slavery, enslaved men, women, and children, they were legally regarded as property rather than people, right? They could be bought, sold, mortgaged, inherited, traded to settle debts, or seized by creditors. Husbands and wives had no legally recognized marriages. Parents had no legal claim to their own children. At any moment, a family could be just torn apart by a bill of sale. Now, this practice served as a psychological purpose as well as an economic one. Slaveholders had to reconcile, in themselves the contradiction between proclaiming these lofty ideals of family and faith and human dignity while simultaneously participating in a system that denied those very rights to other people. And by reducing enslaved people to commodities, to assets listed alongside livestock and land and equipment, they could distance themselves from the humanity of those people that they enslaved, especially by withholding the family unit from them. Just reminding them that they were human if they did that. And so the routine buying and selling of husbands, wives, and children became normalized because the law itself defined those individuals as property. The domestic slave trade, after the end of the international slave trade in 1808, made family separation even more common because they weren't importing more Africans from the continent. And as cotton cultivation expanded into Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, Arkansas, and Texas, hundreds of thousands of enslaved people were sold from the upper South into the deep South, sold downriver. And as we mentioned before, historians refer to this forced migration as the second Middle Passage. Children watched their parents disappear forever. Mothers saw infants taken from their arms, ripped from their arms. Husbands and wives never saw one another again. The trauma extended across generations. And another particularly disturbing aspect of this system was the deliberate exploitation of enslaved women's reproductive capacity. Because the law held that a child's status followed that of the mother. So every child born to an enslaved woman became the legal property of her master, of her enslaver. Some slaveholders intentionally encouraged or coerced, which is rape, reproduction of these women to increase the monetary value of their human property, of their assets. Historical records describe practices sometimes referred to as breeding, in which enslaved men and women were pressured or forced into sexual relationships for the purpose of producing more enslaved children, either for the master or for others in commercial transaction. And while the exact methods varied from plantation to plantation, the underlying motive here was unmistakably economic. Every birth represented additional wealth. Some enslaved men were selected because they were considered physically strong or healthy, and they were compelled, forced, which is also rape, to father children with multiple women. This is what the case with Marquis. Reproductive exploitation, including coerced sexual relationships and forced childbearing, formed an integral part of the economics of American slavery. Enslaved women bore, an especially devastating burden in this. Many endured repeated sexual violence from slaveholders, overseers, and others who exercised power over them. They were denied their own bodily autonomy and then forced to watch as these children that they were forced to make were treated as a property from the moment that they were born. Many mothers lived with a constant fear that their sons and their daughters would one day be sold away right in front of them, sometimes at birth. For enslaved fathers, the pain was equally profound. They could love and protect and provide emotional support for their families and yet possess no legal authority to prevent the sale of their wives or their children. Many accounts from formerly enslaved people, and I read these myself from the WPA slave narratives of the 1930s. These accounts describe fathers who desperately tried to keep their families together, only to see them dispersed by auction, by gifting, by inheritance. The emotional scars of these separations cannot be overstated. Formerly enslaved people frequently recalled the auction block as one of the most terrifying experiences of their lives. Can you imagine the cries of parents losing their children and the confusion of young siblings separated forever? As a parent, that traumatizes me just to think about it. And then the lifelong uncertainty of never knowing what became of your loved ones and the vivid memories decades after emancipation. Even after slavery ended in 1865, thousands of freed people searched desperately for missing family members. They had newspapers across the South that published information wanted advertisements by formerly enslaved individuals seeking their husbands, their wives, their parents, their children, their siblings, whom they had been separated from years, even decades earlier. Many searches were just unsuccessful because families had been scattered across multiple states. No records kept. Understanding family separation under slavery is essential because it reveals the institution for what it was. Barbaric. Slavery did not simply exploit labor. It systematically dismantled the most fundamental human relationships. It denied bonds of marriage, it denied parenthood, it denied childhood whenever these bonds conflicted with the profit of the masters, of the enslavers. And to remember this history honestly, it's not just to dwell on the past for its own sake. It's to recognize the extraordinary resilience of those who endured unimaginable suffering while affirming a simple truth. Every person deserves to love. Every person longs to love and belong and to protect their family. Chattel slavery sought to deny that systematically. And the endurance of the people that endured this, the enslaved families, despite every attempt to destroy them, remains one of the most powerful testimonies to the resilience of the human spirit. Family separation. So that's what we're talking about in this episode of How We Got History. And I encourage you, I implore you, I pray that you will take this journey with us. And even, again, underneath all of the craziness and the outrageousness and the laughter and the jokes, there's all of this real talk underneath there, right? There's all this history that this fictional tale is coming out of. Let's explore it. Let's talk about it. Let's build community around this discussion. RuPaul Presents How We Got Over, Episode 2, How We Got History, Family Separation. Let's get to getting over.